Thanks, John. We are excited this year to be back in person with FIRST so far, and looking forward to a season of great competition and lots of learning. So today, like you said, we've got Sylvia and Andrew here that are coaches at our TAP schools, but have been with FIRST for a while. So they've got all the expert knowledge. So Sylvia, why don't you start us off and talk to us about what FIRST and how our schools can get involved?
Thank you, Vina. And thanks everyone for joining us today. This is a quick overview of what FIRST is, and Andrew will then go more deeply into each of the programs that are under the FIRST umbrella. As you can tell from this title slide, we offer experience for everyone that's pre-K through senior year in high school, through all the different levels of each of the programs that are offered from FIRST. This has quickly become the #1 youth serving nonprofit advancing STEM education in the world. And excuse me, what used to be Legally Junior has broken up into 2 different divisions, the Discover and the Explore, so that it gives the students more of experience at their own level. And then that's preceded with FIRST Lego League, FIRST Text Challenge, and FIRST Robotics Competition. Next. So the reason that FIRST has become such an important part of STEM education is that it is a transformative movement. It has bridged the STEM skills gap for every student at any school. This is the only sport that every student can excel at and basically go pro in. As they continue with the knowledge that they will acquire as they go through these challenges and work with the team. It's more than robots. We have several alumni. I know Andrew and I do have several alumni that have incorporated STEM as a career choice in one way or another. And they keep inspiring others also to become involved in FIRST and have those same kind of experiences, that have taken the knowledge that they have learned in other courses and apply them to a real world challenge, an actual thing that lives and shows off their creativity and their problem solving skills, and how they can time manage and bring the project from conception to an actual product that moves and does something. We are changing the world each day. Here are some at-a-glance numbers from the 2019-2020 season. The 2020-21 season, as most of you know, was a little different in many respects. So these are the global outreach numbers that you can take a quick look at. So you can see we're in, FIRST is in about 100 or more countries. We have thousands of volunteers, including coaches and judges. We have 25% a year-to-year growth. Of course, with the anomaly of COVID, that wasn't so much the case last year. But we're hoping, as we're moving forward and finding the new normal, that actually becomes a magnet for our kids to come back to. So some of the impact that FIRST has. Next slide, please. Students that participate in FIRST have a substantial increase in STEM interest. They find themselves more likely to show gains in STEM careers and understanding of STEM in general. They are 2 times more likely to show gains in the interest of STEM and than their counterpart that has not experienced FIRST. They also have an increase in understanding there's growth in all areas as they become more and more exposed and experience what the first has to offer them. And the biggest impact has been to girls. Girls that have had a first experience tend to see themselves in STEM careers and or take the experience that they have had in first and incorporate it into lifelong skills that makes them more of a team player and gives them that ability to own their own career and thoughts and work with a team. Next. Speaking of careers, there are several of our alumni that are now part of definitely a STEM, the STEM career force. They many of them are going to an engineering type of career, whether it's mechanical or electrical. And some actually will go into a computer science career. And some of them kind of do a combo where they're doing computer engineering. So, but we also have some that go into the medical field and do some bio things with incorporate engineering into medicine. And it's kind of interesting to see how FIRST really brings out those skills that are very sought after by most employers. Communication, being able to work with another person or several people, how to manage your time, and definitely how to problem solve. Next. And we're going into this next season, the first forward presented by Qualcomm. Next. And here is what the challenges will be for this year. For the the Discover and the Explore, they're going to do, and First Lego League are going to look at Cargo Connect, respectively, age appropriate for each of those groups. That starts at pre-K, so 4 years and older. Then in the 9 to 14 range, which is the 12 to 18 age, which is the First Tech Challenge group, will be working with Freight Frenzy, and our FRC group, which is 14 to 18, will be working with a Rapid React. So everyone's kind of coming up with their own conclusions as to what the games will actually look like, but we are very much looking forward to the FTC reveal on September 18th. Andrew, it's up to you. This is your part, I believe.
Okay, sure. Go for it. The first Lego League Explore, as Sylvia was saying, this is for, in the pre-K area. And obviously you're not putting a pre-K-er on a competition floor and lights and cameras. It's very much, as the title it says, it's exploration. And it's still within the FLL theme of Cargo Connect. And that'll be the same, for all the Lego stuff. And so they're going to be looking at problems in their community within that theme and building. And the technology there is going to be the Lego We Do, which is with all these technology things, it's like it's no longer connected to the computer or anything. It's Bluetooth enabled, and they're able to do at a very basic level with some block-like programming, make it do things. But the biggest thing there is that it's much more of an expo than a competition, and they're presenting and what it was that they were exploring. And remember, these are pre-K, for those kinds of things. All right, so let's look at the next level. And when you get into the upper elementary, middle school grades, then It's now first Lego League Challenge. And so this may get to where some of your feeder schools, or maybe you're a K-12 and things like that. And so they're working a real world problem, and they're also building a robot out of the Lego. If you still have the Mindstorms EV3, that's still viable technology, but at some point you're going to be wanting to get the latest flavor of the Lego robots, and now it's called the Spike system. The bricks are more colorful and things like that, and there's newer interfaces that you can be programming the Spike in, but it is very much morphed very much more into the Scratch programming language, if you're familiar with that. If you're not, don't worry. It's just a name of an environment that maybe some people are familiar with. All right, so let's jump into what probably most of you as a TAP school would be doing at the high school level, which is the first Tech Challenge. And so these questions that you're going to maybe have in our game reveal is first freight frenzy. But how big is my team, or how should it be? And so around 10 is an average. I think you can go up, 12 used to be like the upper limit, but I think maybe now 16 or so. It gets to be, do you have so many students that there's not something that someone can be doing when they're working on there, and then you want to have maybe a second team or a third team. Some of the large public schools have 3, 4, 8 teams. If you're like most TAP schools are a little bit smaller, cozier environments, and you probably just have the one team. And so teams 10, 12, and you're going to be building a robot. And let's take a look at the next slide. It is a head-to-head model, but it is going to be a 2v2. So there will be 2 robots playing together as an alliance on one side of the field, and another 2 robots playing on the other side of the field as an alliance in some type of way where you're trying to score points. And if you are trying to score points for your alliance, there are probably some type of legal gameplay to where you could be preventing the opposing alliance of scoring points. The important thing to note is there's going to be an initial investment of this reusable kit or platform. There's a couple that you can choose from, and then you will be able to reuse that same set of materials in subsequent seasons. Although if you're cutting, drilling, bending, shaping, you're probably going to want to have to or have in your future year budget, some replacement or maybe repair. And there is also the ability to fabricate parts from a 3D printer, or buying sheet metal or plastic. And so I use the term 3D printer. Do I have to have a 3D printer? No. Is there an advantage to having a 3D printer? Well, so maybe a student has a design for some type of device that's going to grab and be a unique piece that they can't buy online. Then that's an advantage in that your students can then conceptualize, design, build, and print, and then attach. But the games are designed so that, from the materials in these kits of parts, you can achieve the game objectives, and it just gets to be, how efficient and practiced you are. Before we go to the next slide, take a look at that bottom bullet there. Many universities have figured out that, how many kids apply to college that have good grades, right? They've got this grade point this, the grade point that. And so how are they distinguishing, between all the, the 4.1 or the, the 3.8 or the 97 grade point average students? How are the, which are the ones that are going to excel and be the students that we want on our campus? And so they're looking at, what else did you do? And first, robotics, where you're working on these problems and, using, current technologies. So you got good grades and you did this robot thing. And so in some of the ways that universities then, because this selection process gets to be pretty involved is that they can incentivize it by saying we can give you a scholarship. And so $80 million that are out there at public and private universities and colleges that are only available to alumni of FIRST Robotics. All right. And so that number has been growing. Once again, this was kind of the growth curve. Everything now is, COVID impacted. And so we'll see in about 3-4 years what happens to this growth curve. We kind of saw in the Texas area that there was probably a reduction of about 30% of where we were the previous season in terms of number of teams. So we didn't grow, and we had some teams that just couldn't compete, even though we had a remote thing. But we'll have to see. But you can see that this is a movement that's continuing to grow, and so as an institution where people are choosing to send their students to your school, you are more than likely going to want to be joining this robotics movement so that you are part of that number and not on the number that's not on there, schools that don't have it. So just to show you, this is not, some recent flash in the pan, but more and more teams have been forming it every year. So let's take a look where we're at next. Like I said, Sylvia was mentioning, if you saw that continuum, we've got programs all the way down to kinder and pre-K, all the way up to ages 6 to 18 in the competitive thing. And we like to use this phrase, it's the hardest fun you'll ever have. So please make sure that you go into this with the mindset that, yes, this is going to be a challenge. I may not know all the answers, and I need to make sure that I'm having fun while I'm doing that, right? Because that trickles down, the students pick up on these things. And so make sure you're having fun. It's going to be hard. And it is incredibly rewarding. And Sylvia, mentioned that, we see so many of our alumni that are doing things. And the other things we do is we see students where, within the time that are in our school and on these teams, that there are these transformations that happen. Some of them are small, some of them are major, and it's just incredibly rewarding to see these students change from just having school done to them to where they're like really engaged in learning in terms of that things. All right, so let's go next. So here is just kind of a thing for you to be thinking about, and this is not a requirement, but we're seeing more and more of that, and Sylvia is probably responsible for some of this, because in pre-COVID times at our regional tournament, she organized and had a luncheon as part of the multi-day event that was only for the girls, right? And I don't remember which, Girls Are First, I think it might have been what the luncheon was called. But so at Lutheran High School, just as we have a boys and girls basketball team, we've got a boys baseball and a girls softball. We have both a varsity boys and a varsity girls robotics team. So, our enrollment somewhere, every year it changes, we're somewhere in the 125, 130 most years. And we have 2 teams, and we're probably sitting about 12 on each team. So that's like 20% of our population that our school is on the robotics team. But why would we, say, girls, you have your own team? And this is some of this to where it creates a little bit more of a safe space. And the other thing is now our girls team own the entire process. They are not given any kind of stereotypical or relegated role. As perfect example, it is extremely challenging for myself and my fellow coach to get the varsity boys team to document, right? They're building incredible mechanisms and writing great code, but part of engineering is you have to be able to communicate that to that. To be able to communicate that, there has to be a document that you can share, right? And so oftentimes, you know, girls are like, hey, you can be the notebook manager, which is not a bad role, but that, you know, the assumption is you don't have anything valuable to add in terms of mechanical design because I'm suggesting you be the notebook manager kind of thing. So before we play a little bit of this video, because it's like an 8-minute video, I don't want to play the whole thing. We'll probably watch maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and the person that's going to hit play at taps, you can kind of choose a break point whenever you kind of see that. We put this together last year for a state conference, but before we get to that, there's a key phrase here on the second bullet, in that these students are not just building robots. And I know this is the case at Savio as well, because first, yes, we give out trophies, and you know, one of the biggest trophies is for the team that won it on the game field. But actually, the bigger trophy is for the team that had a good robot. Maybe they won on the game field as part of that, but they are doing things that are going to further the mission and vision of FIRST. And so that means you can't build the BattleBot and destroy the competition and leave carnage in your wake, because that's not going to achieve the mission and vision of FIRST. And that is that, you know, that we want more kids to be going into STEM and filling these engineering holes that we've got. And if their experience was, I did this STEM thing and we got destroyed, right? So the teams that are truly living this mission, when they're at competition and they're on the field, they're seriously going to win that match. But they want to win that match against the other team's best effort. So prior to that match, when they're going to be on the field, if one of the other opposing alignment team members had something wrong with their robot and they're aware of that, they don't use that to strategize an advantage. They're going to approach that other alliance and say, hey, I see you've got this issue. We've got some tools, or we've got someone that can help you work on that. And they will make that happen. And Vina might talk about this later when she gets some time. That's for real. She's seen it happen, right? And so not only at competition are you lifting up the other competitors, but you're going out in the community and encouraging the younger generations. You're either sponsoring or hosting events, you're doing outreach, and some of that outreach needs to be to like other members in the community. We want our students to realize that, okay, so yes, you're on this robotics team, and there are now manufacturers that are really building these automated systems, and you've probably seen some of those robot videos now where they're doing parkour and things like that. But there's these other areas of science and technology that Sylvie was talking about in the medicine and the communications and the cybersecurity. And so we want the teams to be going out and attending you know, these Google meetup kind of things, like, you know, the meetup for, you know, women in technology, or the meetup for the San Antonio Manufacturers Association and stuff like that. We do lunch and learns. We bring in guest speakers for the team on, you know, on at least a quarterly basis. I try and get one more like on a monthly basis, those kinds of things. But if we could hear maybe 3 or 4 minutes of the girls on the team here at Lutheran talking about some of their experiences, and you hear it in their own voice. All righty, Vina, I think we're ready for the next slide. That may have been my last one. There's information there on firstinspires.org. This is where you would register and create your team. First in Texas will have similar information. And the key thing on the First in Texas website is you're going to want to click on the grants tab, because the grant window opened up on the first round September 1st. So it closes sometime in the middle of September, and they will start sending money to schools to start teams in October, and they will be like rounds 2 and 3. I am not on the grants team, but I will tell you it is probably not a secret, but it is a challenge sometimes for grant giving organizations to give all the money out. So you should apply. It's not a lot of effort. It is somewhat formulaic, so be prepared to have some of your demographics for your school and your team members, and there will be, with all grant things, there will be some follow-up things that you'll have to do in terms of submitting official rosters and doing surveys and things like that. But there is money every year to start teams, so you should apply. I think we're up to you now, Vina.
Okay, thanks, guys. I want to make sure I'm not clicking on the wrong things here. Turn the page. There we go. Okay, so for our TAPS event, first of all, thank you, Andrew and Sylvia, for sharing with our TAPS schools more about FIRST and about FTC. I do want to talk a little bit about the season. It's not too late to join FIRST this year. The kickoff for the game challenge is in September, I think on the 18th. And then you have your build and practice season for this whole fall. There's qualifying tournaments that you'll go to within the FIRST system, with those lasting probably until February. And then this regional championships and our state TAPS championship is going to be on April 2nd. So we do participate, our schools will participate with the regular FIRST and FTC season, and then our championship will be at the end of your regular season, probably before the World Championship and things like that. So let's talk about the TAPS championship. We are going to host our event at the new Business, Arts, Sports, and Entertainment facility, the base at the Extraco Event Center in Waco on Saturday, April 2nd. It's a brand new facility, and I'm excited that TAPS Robotics will be there. It's a really awesome place. For the TAPS championship, TAPS member schools and TAPS feeder schools that have an FTC team can participate regardless of how things are in your regular FIRST season. So it's an open qualifier for our TAPS member schools. The cost is $100 per team. Our registration is usually due just a few weeks before, so March 26th is that target date. And we'll have instructions on our website and more information going out to you as we get closer to those dates. Our website, taps.biz, will have instructions for making sure your students are eligible and registered properly in our Rank 1 system, how to volunteer for our event, and it will even talk about our judges awards that are a little bit different from the ones that FIRST gives out at the FIRST official events. For TAPS, we do have, you can have more than one team come to our event. And in the past, we've had probably around 24 teams or so, but our contracts were due this week, and we had about 30 or 40 teams already that have signed up with the intent to participate in robotics. So I'm really excited to see the growth from our TAPS schools over the last few years since we've been offering a TAPS championship. So taps.biz is our website. If you click on Fine Arts, robotics falls under our Fine Arts umbrella. Fine Arts umbrella. When you click on Fine Arts, you click Robotics, and it'll have more information on FIRST, but then also more information on our event specifically. If you have any questions, we are opening that up right now. I haven't seen any come in quite yet, but I do want to tell you that it's been a real joy to go to our TAPS FTC events and see the camaraderie with the teams, people joining together to help each other create that robot that functions properly and to the best. As Andrew mentioned earlier, I've seen it with my own eyes where a team, something might happen with their robot in a match or they show up and something got jostled along the way, and the other teams have stepped up and said, you know what, I've got exactly what you need to fix that. And I've seen several teams just work together so that the overall program is successful and that every robot gets to compete. And all the students are just really excited about that experience that they had with the other students and the other teams. And it's not so much a rivalry, it's we're in this together, and it is more than just the robot. I do want to say that in the past, we've had a little bit, our judging awards have been a little different. We haven't done the classroom presentations, but I do plan to do that this year, where the judges will be there and you can do your presentations for the judges for those judged awards, as well as the regular pool play in the morning and then the tournament in the afternoon. And I still don't see any questions, so I am going to just close this out. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can email us at info@taps.biz or call our office, and we'll be glad to answer your questions and see what you need.